Future James here. This video is quite lengthy, but there is a big payoff at the end, at least I think so. At the end we have a dev kit working in a browser wired up to the console and the assembler, and we can run a program all in the browser. So quite a lot to do to get there, but it's pretty cool at the end, I think so anyway, so please stick with it. Hey, welcome back to this series on creating a virtual console with an AI assistant. I have my assistant today. My dog is in the background. She's wondering a lot of fuss this morning. Yes, I'm distracted by my dog as per usual. So welcome back to this episode. In the last part, we built an assembler. You might recall the AI had left some debris. So between that episode and this episode, I've just cleaned up that file a little. I've cleaned up the assembler.ts file. I made no major changes. I just removed redundant code and redundant imports. I did a bit more review. It seems okay, but I think what we need to do is try it out. So as a next step. So what we're going to do to enable that is start building the dev kit. So what I wanted to do with this project was essentially have the console itself, then better wrap it in a browser-based developer kit, so it had kind of modern-ish tooling to go with it and support you writing code with it. And we're going to start that today. It's going to be written in React, and I don't have specifications prepared for this. We're going to feel our way through this a little bit. The key things I've kind of decided to use are Tailwind. I know Tailwind pretty well. Going to use the Monaco editor, so VS Code, the sort of web part, the editor part of VS Code, which you can use in your own application. It's open source. We'll use that. We're going to want a split view. I'm going to try and get the console running on the left and the editor on the right, and we're going to type our assembly into the editor. And I'm going to use, I don't know how you say it, Zustand, that as a state store. I've used it once before. I'm pretty new to it, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it goes okay. I may pull some code out of my last project where I used that to support this. You can go look at that. It's on GitHub. It was just a classic mainframe Star Trek port, but it was quite fun to build. So that's what I'm going to do. I used to use React all the time, just to give you a bit more context on how this might go. I used to use React all the time. At the moment when I code in the day, in my sort of day job as it were, I use Angular. I can say I'm not a fan of Angular. It seems to make everything hard. And using Monaco with it, I've used Monaco with it quite a bit. It's always painful adding Monaco to Angular. So we'll see how that works out here. Hopefully a bit easier with React. There generally seems to be less friction with React when I do things with React. But yeah, I'm a little bit, I guess, React rusty. I used to use it all the time, and now I use it. I used it for my previous project. I've used Zustand once. I'm a little bit rusty, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm also going to use WebStorm. So I mentioned before, I use WebStorm for the most part for editing. I'm using VS Code so far. I tend to write, code spec.md in the console, so I end up in code. But when I'm writing code, I tend to use WebStorm. I think that's just because, I never quite got on with VS Code as a coding tool. I know it's quite powerful, but I don't know. It never seems to quite fit with how I work. And I've been using ReSharper for a long time, so it's quite an easy move from ReSharper to a JetBrains IDE like Rider and WebStorm, which is what I tend to use the most. I've used C-Line a little bit, and yeah, I find myself more comfortable in those IDEs. But there's nothing, particular to those IDEs that we're going to be using here. I will probably use the in IDE chat, but you can plug chat into anything. VS Code has Copilot. You can plug Claude code into it. Let's just get going. I pre-created, before I started all this, just a couple of projects, and one was the dev kit, which I have started running, and I tend to use Edge for my development. of applications. I mean, I use Safari as my actual browser, but I tend to use Edge for doing development work in. I mean, Safari's got some weird foibles. It is a weird browser if you're not just using it in sort of Apple land. So I tend to use Edge, and we've got a standard, out of the box, plain TypeScript web system, and we want to clear all this out and get back to Tailwind and an empty view. So if I look to my right, it's just because to save some, you don't want to watch me Googling for things. So I've got up the Tailwind instructions. I've got up some Monaco stuff, and so on and so forth, just so that we don't end up scrabbling around, like a crazy idiot. So at the moment, I've got the Tailwind. Add the Tailwind to the project instructions. It's something I do once a blue moon. I don't create projects every single day, and I have no interest in trying to remember. So let's get started. We are going to install Tailwind. I don't know why I'm doing that. I can just copy the code out. Okay, let's install Tailwind. Okay, so that's in. We should have a vita.config. Okay, we have. So we just need to add some bits to that. Add Tailwind. Okay, and let's just add the plugin. Oops. Okay, so that's Tailwind in there. We need to find our CSS file. I can't quite remember what I created it with. Yeah, just a plain old CSS. Let's put into there. We're going to basically empty all this out, and into here we need to just import Tailwind. Okay, I'm going to actually get rid of this. I have no interest in that, so actually let's just delete the whole file, and we'll need to remove the reference from here. Okay, I should imagine if we run this now it'll look very strange. Let's find out. Yeah, unsurprisingly the styling's all gone. So let's just actually let's revise this. We don't want any of that. We're not interested in a React logo. We're not interested in a Vita logo. We're not interested in the counter. All we're interested in is a div block. And hopefully now we've just got a div block. Okay. I need to make this, I guess, if I go to main.tsx, strict mode app, okay, index.html. Okay, let's just, in here, let's just make sure we get it full screen. I think we'll probably have to put it on here as well. Oh, we're putting in the ID tag. That's not going to work, is it? Live coding. I hate live coding. We don't need that anymore. Let's put hello world in here so we can see some content. Okay, great. Let's go back to our index file. We're just going to make this we don't want this scrolling. I guess we're going to need to make this thing also. Okay, that's not working. Oh, I'm in React. Always catches me out. Angular doesn't do that. Okay, app, main app, index app. Do we need to put one on here as well? Actually, the way I'm going to do this is slightly different. Let's add it into our CSS. Add a class in. Okay, great. We've got a full screen thing and it shouldn't overflow. Okay, so let's just take that PG out. Okay, cool, great. Just put this in. I think we will need that. We will need that. Of course, we'll need that. Okay, so we've got like a little full screen container now. We know it's taking up full screen. If we go into our app, okay, great. We've got a full screen thing that, again, we don't want this to overflow. It shouldn't, but let's just make sure. Overflows. Okay. I should add as well before we get going on this, I'm definitely not a designer and I don't really see myself as a UI expert, but you know, we can see how we get on. So I mentioned I wanted this split view, and I'll just add, we're going to iterate on this, so like, I'm just pushing things in app at the moment. We'll start to componentize it and pull things around as we go, but for now let's keep it simple. We want to add a split view into this, so it goes down the middle like a little splitter, and at the top I think we're going to have a little toolbar, probably on the left splitter, which lets us run things and step forward, things like that. So I mentioned using allotment. I've never used allotment before, but it looks pretty useful. It looks pretty straightforward to use. So let us install allotment. Allotment, by the way, we've got a nice. It's got a nice website. Apparently, this is the splitter used in VS Code. There's their website. Yeah, it's in VS Code. Same rough code base. So should work well with Monaco, we hope. Let us then just install it. Okay. This npm install allotment. Okay, let's start ourselves up again. Into project. I ought to add a start to everything else. I'm going to get really confused if something start, something run dev. So that's some cleanup we need to do. Let us put allotment in here. Apparently it is that straightforward. Could be import. I guess it needs children, is what it's going to say. Yeah, okay. Let's put 2 div blocks in here. Actually, let's start the componentization, and we're going to do our, what should we call it? Debug view? Console view? Let's call it our debug view because I think it's going to have a few things in. So we're going to put a debug view in here and we're going to put our editor in here. So let's start to, interesting to put stores in. What is this? Is this ZooStand? It is ZooStand. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that would happen. That's really curious. I don't recall creating this through an LLM, but maybe I did say create these projects for an LLM because it looks like it's got console stuff in here. It's put a store in for the console. So I guess I must have created these in an LLM, so please create me this project structure with these projects, and that's what it's gone and done. I have no recollection of doing that. I must have done it when I was on holiday in Peaks. I was in Peak District last weekend and I was sort of planning this out. I must have asked an LLM to create this. No recollection of this at all. Fantastic. Okay, we're probably going to clear that out, but we've got ZooStand installed. I've not noticed the stores folder. That's really funny. I thought I just did clean creates. I'm going to create a new directory though, called, I might call it application. I tend to split my React into kind of 2 parts. One is like the application components, pages, whatever you want to call them, and the other is into the fiddly little components, like if I have a text input and things like that. So I tend to just kind of pull them into two parts, just for my own sanity. We're going to create a TypeScript file, and we're going to create the debug view as a TSX file, and export function debug view, and we're just going to make it dark. Okay, that's the debug view, and we're going to create, what did I call the other one? So this one reasons I like React over Angular. Like in Angular, I have to start ng generating C. It just seems like busy work to me, but you know, I don't know. It's a very strange thing, Angular, to me. It seems to try to do things that you can just do with TypeScript and JavaScript, and it seems to do them its own way. And the result, it's quite heavy and big, and it lags behind. Like they're just adopting Jest, I think, in Angular, or just have, and people are moving on to Vitest, and yeah, it's a weird. I'm not a fan. I mean, it works. You know, it works. You can produce great apps with it. I just it's not my first choice for sure. Maybe I'm more interested. I mean, it does provide some structure, but you can impose structure on a React app, and you can use it like Next. But it does provide structure. Maybe I'm a fan of chaos and carnage. Who knows? But here we are. We're using React. Okay, so in theory, we've got an allotment view, our debugging editor. Let us see what's happening in here. Doesn't look quite like what I expected based on the sort of demo that I could see. I need to include a style sheet, that's why. Okay. So I'm new to allotment, so this is all entirely new to me. Okay, great. We've got a debug view, we've got an editor, and we've got a splitter. Handy. Okay, that seems like a good place to do a quick commit to me. A bit bigger for people. Ooh, sugar, that's gone really big, hasn't it? Let's get back into the view for people. Yeah, start. Split view in place. Okay, let's try add Monaco. And I guess the question you might ask is why aren't I using an LLM for this? I probably could have used an LLM and said, you know, this is what I want, etc., etc. And it would have done a pretty credible job. It would have probably had some bits and pieces to just poke around. But to be honest, I find this sort of structure, putting the structural parts in place like this, to be as quick to do myself, or certainly not that much slower. And it puts in place the kind of structure that I want the LLM to then fill in. You know, I am going to get the LLM to start writing some code in this, but it just sort of adds that structure that it can then populate, and I've nudged that structure into a shape I want. So I guess that's why I tend to do this step manually. I don't think AI replaces developers completely at all. In fact, I don't think it replaces them at all. It's, as I said at the start of the series, it's a multiplier of your productivity, but it's, you know, sometimes you do things yourself, sometimes you do things with the AI, and yeah, it's no one size fits all. And also, you know, there's personal preference. How do you like to work? You know, we are human beings, we are not machines, and although some of our corporate overlords, you know, seem to be intent on just extracting maximum resource out of people, people are not machines, people are people. And you know, I think preference and emotion comes into it, and to ignore that, I think, is dangerous. It breaks people. That's my sort of view on people and management. And I've probably said before, in the day, I am a hands-on CTO. I focus mostly on product development rather than management, but I've been running an engineering team for the last few years. I handed that off recently to focus more on the product side, but when I do manage people and when I work with teams quite deeply, as I'm doing at the moment, I just try and keep in mind that I'm working with human beings and adults, and I think that's the way to go. In any case, that's why I'm not using an LLM. We're a bit of a sidetrack. Any of my team will tell you I enjoy a good monologue from time to time, so you'll have to excuse me when I do monologue. You can always skip it and get back to the coding. In any case, we've got that pushed. We've got our code running. So now I'm going to try, and this fills me with horror, and I seem to have lost the Monaco thing I had, Monaco guidance I had. 1 second. Okay, yeah, got it. Let's get that up on its actual homepage. Okay, so it has I guess we're off to a better start. It turns out React has an official Monaco wrapper. So I'm feeling a bit more positive, I guess, that this might not be as painful as with Angular. And maybe I did something wrong when I did it with Angular, but I guess we'll find out. So I'm looking at, this is the page I'm looking at, by the way. Sorry, I should show it. This is the page I'm looking at. I'm looking at React Monaco editor. Interestingly, Claude has pointed me at a different one, so it might be worth just checking out on NPM what this is. Often there are multiple of these things, as we know, as developers. Let us have a quick look. Let's go to GitHub and see if we can make a decision about which one to use. They're both pretty popular. So a quick scroll down. Okay, I think this is the times where we are going to ask Claude for some information on these two things. Looking at Monaco, there are two popular packages for React. That one and that one. How do they differ? They both seem popular. Is one of them an official Monaco wrapper? Okay, let's see what Claude has to say. It's something you might have gone and Googled and looked for yourself previously. We'll let the AI do the work for us, and we'll see what's going on. Okay, let's have a look at the updates. Certainly is quite current. That's a little bit old by the looks of it. Yeah, okay, so I think we want to be using this one. Immediate looks a little bit more, this is quite healthy, isn't it, in terms of its updates. 3 months ago this has been done pretty soon too, 0.59.0, RC. What else does Claude have to say? Hooks friendly design. Yeah, I definitely want to use one with hooks friendly design. Okay, let's go for Monaco editor React, and I will scroll back up because I got Claude to give me some guidance on integrating it in this use case this morning, and you can see what questions I asked it. What's the easiest way to add it? I asked about how do we add a syntax pack in so we can get our assembly highlighting. Some of this I kind of knew from, I've done some of the things in the Monaco implementation that have in Angular, but they're things I do, once a blue moon, as the phrase goes, very rarely. So I always like to check before proceeding on things like that. They're not exactly things that you do day to day. They're not things I do today anyway. And in any case, we are going to add this thing into a system, and we're going to hope for the best. Okay, it's added. I am now just curious for what version of React we're running on because I got this into it. Oh, very recent. Okay, fine. Yes, because I hadn't created it manually. I think it just ran VM. I think what it did is almost certainly what it did. I can't actually remember it doing, as I'm saying, I think what it did, but almost certainly what it did, looking at what's in that package.json and Vita and things, is it ran the type, the Vita create React TypeScript is almost certainly what it ran. So we should be in a good place, and we're certainly in a good place. We're in a good enough place, but I didn't notice the LLM had done it until I saw that stores folder. So we'll continue. Just zero recollection of that. That's unbelievable. It's not even as if I have an excuse of drinking as well. I don't drink, so I can't have been drinking. I don't have any excuse. It's just gone in one part of my brain and out the other. Joy. It's been a busy week at work. That's my excuse, and I'm going to stick with it. So Monaco is installed. Let's rerun the application, and then we're going to try and put in our editor the Monaco component. So let me go back to Claude. I'm just going to pull this onto my second screen. So that I can move things over, and we'll see what happens here. Okay, so there's no height property. Let's just editor. Let's see what documentation for it. Let's see what I'm just scrolling through looking for documentation. It does have a height. So I'm not quite sure why it's not. Yeah, it does. Oh, I wonder if I've called it editor. An editor. Okay, right. That's why. Let's call this editor container. Yes. And let's then use the Monaco editor. I mean, we could resolve that for an import, but I don't want such a fundamental clash of a core piece of technology. So I'm just going to go with the Monaco, let Monaco call itself editor, so I don't have to get myself confused everywhere. I generally think you should name things, as you need them to be named, but sometimes you need to, I think particularly for structural components, for big components, it's starting to rename things and alias things. It gets messy fast in my experience. Great, we've got a Monaco editor and it's doing something helpful. Wow, it's using TypeScript as a default language, which is not what we want, but for now, it's not going to like our LD stuff, is it? No, but we'll fix that hopefully, and perhaps this episode, we'll see. Okay, so great, we've got that. I wonder if it supports 100%. Let's find out. It does support 100%, so now I've got a Monaco editor fitting really nicely. Let's see what happens as we scroll. Okay, awesome, we've got a Monaco editor that's behaving nicely. That was definitely easier than doing it with Angular. All hail the mighty React. It's just simpler. To me, it's just simpler. It doesn't have its own module system and crazy stuff going on. It's just TypeScript or JavaScript, it's just simpler. Yeah, I find Angular very strange, but I'll stop moaning about Angular. It is what it is. And it's fine, it's fine. It's just a very different ethos, and I prefer simple and light, and other people prefer, things that are more structured, and that's fine. I don't think there's a wrong or a right. Often, I think React's more productive for various reasons I could go into, and perhaps I'll do a short at some point on that and talk about that. But I must move on. Okay, so it's got some default content. Okay. Okay, so let's shall we commit that there? Let's commit that there. I tend to use the console for Git. I think it's because I use Git with so many different technologies that we all have our own Git integrations, and it just starts to, confuse me. I've tried using Kraken and things like that, and I don't quite get on with them. So I often just, use things like this. Now, One thing we don't have at the moment, so we've got our, if you think back to the last couple of episodes, we've got our CPU class, we've got our memory class. What we don't have at the moment is an emulator. We don't have our console. We're actually bringing the various parts together. And I don't want to do that in the Devkit. That would be strange and weird. So I'm going to do it in the hardware. And I'm going to, for our, not the specs, we don't want it in the specs, we want it in the console source. I'm going to create a TypeScript file called console.ts. I'm going to call it virtual console, actually. Virtual console.ts. And in here, I am just going to, let's try using the agent in here. So JetBrains have got this Claude agent integrated now as part of JetBrains AI. I'm sure I updated that this morning. That's a bit annoying. I definitely updated that this morning. I'm not sure what that's about. Okay, but they've got this new, they've integrated the Claude code agent stuff into the IDE, but it runs through your kind of JetBrains billing, your JetBrains AI credits. I've not used it much. When I have used it, there's been the odd glitch. It is still in beta, but I'm going to ask it to create a class in this file called virtual console that brings together a CPU instance and a memory map instance. We need to be able to access let's think about how I want to wrap this up. So the memory map from outside the class. Do we want to be able to access the CPU from outside the class, or do we want to provide a wrapper? Let's just make them both publicly available. They could both. And not later wrap them. But for now, let's just keep things simple. We just want a way of bringing these things together. Add a constructor that sets the class up. Set up the default values for these classes. Okay, I'm going to tell it to do a constructor because we might not actually want it to do a constructor. Okay, well, it's already installed, but you go for it, JetBrains. I guess it creates its own sort of local instance of the Claude agent. I've just recorded, I've not used this on my own laptop. I've been using it at work, which is on my work laptop. But I did update everything this morning. I just forgot that it does this first time you use it. But it's a quick download. I have rural broadband, so I have to plan my upgrades and things carefully. It'll be extremely disruptive. Though I did get an upgrade from 30 meg to 50 meg recently, which was fantastic. And yeah, I couldn't moan because some people who live rurally don't even have that. Okay, so it's created a class. Let's have a read. This is kind of like preview view. I've obviously got this zoomed in so that we can see it, on the videos. But it makes it a bit space limited. But so it's got created read-only CPU, read-only memory bus, and it's wired up the CPU to memory. Okay, let's accept all that. Okay, we've got our class, we've got our virtual console. Okay. So that's an example of sort of using the agent in situ, using chat in situ. Yeah. Now I'm now thinking about how to wire up the CPU inside the Devkit, because we don't want it in the store. It's not really store. It's not really state in that sense. It's not application state, and it's when we actually get it running and using, running with a timer, so it's running on its own clock. We really don't want that in the store. That wouldn't be good. So we want to make it accessible. I think it might make sense through kind of a React context thing. So we can say const virtual console equals use virtual console. We've probably got an example of that in here because that tends to be how you wire up Zustand. It hasn't done it here. Oh yes, there it has. Use Devkit store. Fine. I'm going to ask Claude to do this for us. So in here, I'm going to create a directory called virtual console. It's a console integration actually. Okay, in here I'm going to create a TypeScript file. I mean, the agent can create the files for you. I've just had some glitches with it, with files in its beta state, so I'm just a little bit wary. I'm just kind of tiptoeing around things I've seen go wrong when I've used it, manually. I think they're called contexts, aren't they? Okay, let's see what it does. Again, context are things I don't write that often, so if I go a bit wrong here, what I'll probably do is go back to my TS Trek application and where's it put that? It's put that in the wrong place by the looks of it, so I don't want to let it do that. Yeah, these are the sort of problems I found with the agent inside JetBrains. It's a bit dodgy at the moment. I don't think Claude Code would have done that if we'd have asked Claude Code to do that. So let's discard all that because it's wrong. I'm going to take my comment. Yeah, I think JetBrains need to get their act together. Really, they're lagging. Their IDEs are great, but they are lagging on the sort of AI integration, and it's not good enough really. You can go and install Copilot and things like that, but they need to step up their game, in my humble opinion. In any case, let us launch Claude from the terminal. I like the terminal in any case. Maybe I'm old school, but we'll do it through the terminal. Let's just shut that down, so we can't see it there. In source slash in, sorry, let's find it, dot slash dot. We're in, which folder are we in? Sorry, Devkit, okay. About that, so it's not in Devkit. Context. Let's put my bit in. I'm just going to edit the. So move up a bit. In. I think it will need renaming actually to TSX for context, because it does use elementy bits. Let's see what Claude Code does from the terminal. I found this agent in the terminal to be the best of various things so far. Squirrel code, virtual console source, console source. I've got the path on where it's at. Yes, you can overwrite it. That's completely fine. It's empty. Okay, and what have we got here? Let me just get rid of the solution view so we've got a bit more room. Okay, virtual context props, it takes children. Okay, so that's the provider. That's why we needed to make it a TSX file. We've got virtual console provider. We've got a use virtual console. It'll complain about fast refresh, but that's okay. Okay, return to context.console, use context. Okay, so it's created something we can type use virtual console in. We just need to put the provider into our application so we can get to it downstream. So I am going to ask it to use into main.tsx. Main.tsx inside the strict mode, but wrapping the app tag, app component. Okay, so in theory now in here, yeah, we've got our provider, and it means we can use our virtual console in various places. Okay, all looks good. That's back how it was. Virtual console.ts. Okay, great. And the place I wanted to use this, well, I'm going to need to use it in both places, but one of the places I wanted to use this was in the debug view. Where in this first instance of it, because we don't have any sort of video hardware, or, virtual hardware. Let's not get carried away, James. We're not building microchips and circuit boards here. Maybe that's the next project. Maybe we take this and turn it into a real system. God, that's an idea, isn't it? That would be crazy. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get it working in software before we move on. In the debug view, in this very first instance, what I'm basically going to do is use a hex display similar to that one that we had in the console, so that we can see, in the absence of any video, we can see things happening in response to us writing assembly code in the actual assembler. So in here now, we're going to need to put the hex view. So I'm going to create this as a different component. The reason I'm going to create it as a different component is that in the next part, it might take two parts, but in the next section, let's say, we're going to actually create some video memory, and then we're going to let us see that alongside the hex view. So we're to look at the hex view or look at the screen display. We might do that in a splitter, and maybe we should think about putting that in now as a placeholder, so we've got the structure. No, let's not. Let's just put the hex view in. Let's put the memory dump in. So we're going to create a memory dump class. Okay, let's go to my application, Devkit, application, memory view. It's got, memory view, and it's going to be a TSX file. Okay. Now the question here is: do we? Let's start creating the class. Actually, so export function, memory view. Okay, const. Console, virtual console. I'll call it virtual console rather than console because console.writeLine, and again, I'd rather just call my thing console, but I don't want to be trapped. It's just too much hassle to have a name and crash at a fundamental level like that. It is to me anyway. I'd rather pull them apart. It's just confusing people if you read the code later as well, like console.cpu. What do you mean console.cpu? Console that has .write, .log on it, and things like that. It's just confusing. So let's not to do that. And in here, we basically want to return a memory view using a fixed font. So this is where I want to get, again, I'm going to get the AI to help us. And I am going to try the in IDE chat again. Let's just commit this before I do that. So it doesn't compile, that doesn't matter. Just about to start the hex view. And actually, just for the time being, I'm thinking about keeping things like to a sensible length of this video, because it's going to be quite a long video, I think, anyway. But let's brain, yes. Let's use some state. We need to track the first memory address. What we're looking at the memory from. Let's think about this a bit. So I don't think we want an infinite scroll of this thing of 64K being dumped all the time. We kind of want a page view onto memory. So I'm thinking we want like a first row and n lines. But we can see. I think what we'll do for now is make it page, and we could make a page through memory, and we could have a page size so that you can have a window onto it. And then in a future episode, we could look to extend that so you can scroll up and down kind of organically through it, and it's virtualized. But if we try and do all that at once, this will not take an hour. So let's go for the sort of minimum viable product to get a memory dump out. As I say, I have not planned this episode really, other than researching like Monaco and allotment. I wanted to just really organically do this. So we're going to add some state. We want a memory address, first row address, set this equals use state, and actually it's going to be a number. So let's go with some hex. I'm now trying to, if you write hex like that in JavaScript or TypeScript. I don't often write hex in TypeScript, I have to say. Okay, so that's our action, and then we want set so view size. How big a default size do we want? It's where I can't quite remember some bits and pieces, but Apple has this handy calculator, decimal. So we start with a K, and what's that in hex? Okay, do 2 and 4. Okay, so we've got a view size, we've got a set view size, and this is where I'm now going to ask the LM to fill this in. So we kind of want it a bit like the hex view we created for the CPU example. So we could probably pick our spec. Did we write a spec for it? We did write a spec for it. So we wrote CPU examples.md. And in here, we talked about a hex view, I think. A memory dump. Here we go. So here, if we go to memory view, I'll go to chat. Oh, hello, Rafi. Having a gurgle. Satisfied gurgle. Let me do a new chat. I don't want that previous one to exist, but in let's pop this in here, and then hex dump of the memory property of virtual. First row of the dump is that pointed to right first row address, and the view should, and the view size to ensure that view size bytes are shown. Okay. Font, okay. Okay. Before I run that, I'm just going to copy that in case something goes wrong. We're in theory we can undo it, but I'm not entirely trusting of this tool yet. Let's see what happens. I think we've covered it. We'll add a box scroll onto it later, but let's let that run. Okay, what's it proposing? Bytes per row equals 8. Yeah, okay. Seal, okay. That's right, it needs to be rounded, okay. Okay, doing a span. I'm not sure what you're using. Styles, but I'm not sure we could. Okay, I want to accept it and I'm asking it to convert that to Tailwind, but that'll be okay for now. I should have said you need to use Tailwind for the styling, but let's see how this pans out. Okay, let's hide the chat for a second. Okay, we don't have a length property on memory, but it's always 64K. Okay, it's not looked at the memory class. It's quite disappointing really, this current JetBrains implementation. Yeah, a little bit disappointing. It should be using memory.read. Let's, again, just to compare and contrast, let's try this with Claude code in the console. So I'm just going to copy this out. I'm actually going to go into, I was using Claude, I was using it here, wasn't I? But let's go into the, no, this will be easier. Yeah, I'm using it here, won't we? Okay, so let's go into source, let's go into, application, and then let's run Claude from here, and then just very quickly I'm going to get up VS Code. There's a little notepad and I can find VS Code. Where's VS Code gone? No, don't save anything. Do a new window, new window. Okay, VS Code. I'm just going to, in here, in the memory view.tsx component, And my suspicion is this is going to do a much better job again. I should probably send JetBrains this video as feedback, really, because it's yeah, I think it's quite poor at the moment. It's just missing. It's just missing things. You know, the tools are constantly evolving, and I don't know why Claude is missing things in JetBrains compared to a terminal. So I don't really care if it needs to work. We're paying for it. See how this one works. This is also using memory.length, which is interesting. But let's see what it does. It might go and add a memory.length to so make the changes, because it might go and then do some changes to the memory class, which is okay. You know, it's always 64K, but so it's also not bothered to do that, which is really interesting. Okay, let's give it some more guidance. This is why the specs are quite helpful. So this is the sort of danger of freewheeling with it. It doesn't always look at the things you'd like it to look at. That has compile errors. You need to look at the memory map TS, isn't it? Memory map.ts console memory bus.ts implementation in repo root / source / it doesn't have an index property. Access it, and it doesn't have a length. You can add a length, but use the existing method to access the memory. I'm really curious when I'm coding in the day now, having sort of spent my time. Okay, just looking for the class. It's fine. Spent my time talking while coding on here. Am I going to be talking while coding in the day? I think I probably sometimes do anyway, but it'll be quite interesting to see. My dog will probably think I'm going crazy. So we have a size thing in there, it turns out. Which I forgot about. Okay, so it doesn't need to add a size. And this is why in the specs, this is why I was saying to it, you know, read this and read that and read that. Because particularly on big pieces of work, they get these things wrong. So I think I'll only 2 hours now. Let's get rid of this chat. We could probably fix it in that chat in this case. But that's why in the specs, that's why I kind of say read these things and look here to make sure that they do pay attention to the right things. If you don't ask them to do that, then on jobs that can span multiple files, sometimes we'll go and look and sometimes they won't. It's just easier often to say, please look there. I mean, that looks like it's done something sensible. Let's see if it, those errors shouldn't prevent it compiling. They're just that we haven't wired anything up to the view. Let's see where we are. I stopped it running, didn't I? Okay. Probably should have done it a slightly different way, but that's okay. More terminals. Interesting. Have I not wired up the memory view in the... I have not. Okay. Well, okay, look at that. We've got a memory dump. 10. What length did we say it should be? 2 and 4. That is 124, isn't it? Because it should be 8 byte. Is it not 8 byte aligned? We ended it with 16 byte aligned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's 16 byte. We've made this 16 byte, 16 columns. Bytes per row 16. Let's see if we can change it to 8. Okay, that's a bit healthier. And then what we will do is on the outer div. Okay, one thing we ask it to do is use Tailwind where possible. Let's not use Tailwind. So what I will do for the next part, I won't do it while we're here, but I will probably create a little style guide for working, like I've got a TypeScript guide, create a little guide for working in the context of a React app. So use Tailwind, etc., etc., etc. So like a React guide, or React-TypeScript guide, let's call it. Cool, so we've got Tailwind going here now, so that should, great, use Tailwind. Our splitter works, awesome. Okay, let's also, this would be quite easy to add, I think. I think we just need to here do a overflow y auto. I was going to be rearranging SVLM to do it. Apologies, that's an alarm going. Yeah, okay, just going to pause for a moment. I'll be right back. Hey, I'm back, hopefully. Had to just quickly pause to do something, but back. Yeah, so we were just trying to make this thing scroll, and my attempt didn't work. I guess because it probably needs a max height 100. Okay, but then that's half the size. Okay. Let's go up to debug view. I just need to height 100, max height full. So I'm mixing myself up with Bootstrap now. There we go. Okay, so we've got a scroll bar on the hex viewer. That's a horrible Windows type scroll bar really, but never mind, we'll sort that out later. Not important for now. Okay. What I'm going to say to it now is before the memory dump, and this shouldn't scroll, we want to be able to adjust the start address of the view and adjust the page size. Burst should be 8 byte aligned. I want a toolbar. Okay, it's working away. Dum-de-dum. Not too big an ask for it, we hope. Looks like it's that's quite basic. We can go and scribble this up at a later date. Okay. Let's use a different colour for those things. That's not a great colour, is it? It's picking up the colour, default colour. So let's just put that to. Not massively worried about it for now, but text zinc -200. Okay, that's a bit nicer. Okay, can we see it? Okay, so we've got memory view. Can't tap into it because of its validation. So start address because of the validation. It's blocking us changing things. This will say, "Oh yes, you're right." The crazy, chatty, conversational tone that these things have is very funny to me. Okay. Okay, that's it. Okay, that's okay. Still don't much like it, but for now, in terms of getting us going. So the numbers, let's look at the code. It looks like it's the numbers 8 be entered. What is this thing doing? This has gone really awry. Handle address change. Okay, so what's it coming from? Start address on change. How does it change? So it's a new value. Okay. But it won't be like partial values like 004. Try and put 40 in. It won't because 004 4 is not a value. Okay, so it's just utterly flawed. It's made a right mess of it, really. That's not right. Make it a simple input. Actually, I'm going to give it one more chance to sort of come up with a solution for itself, and then I'm just going to say make it a simple input because this isn't the focus of this episode really. We just want something really basic going so we can see the memory view. Yeah, so that's where I might go next with on blur. But okay, address input, size input, decouple it from the underlying thing. Yes, I think that's what I would have done. Okay. Okay, so in theory now it's decoupled the input and the input and the actual applying of it. So let's see what happens. Yeah, that's better. Okay, that's much better. Okay, that's probably where I'd have gone when I said something simpler. So okay, that's fine. That's absolutely fine in a decent place now. Okay, so let's go back to our Monaco. Our editor view. So the next thing we want to do is have this, let's type some assembly in here, and I'm going to pick one of the programs from the test bed we've been running, and then we want to assemble it and load it into the CPU. And what we should see in here is the memory change when we do that. So let's go into our editor container, and what I'm going to say is, can I just grab the toolbar from here? Actually, what I'll do is ask it to do one like the one it did. So okay, so new chat. Let's just do a new chat. When you do a new chat, you're clearing the context out of the LM, so it kind of starts afresh. It's a bit like when I exited the terminal and restarted the terminal in the last episode. It's kind of starting afresh. Okay, but in here now, we want to get it to add a toolbar to our debug view. in this view, can you add a toolbar above the I'm in the debug view? Nope. In this view, editor view, we want editor container. We want above the editor. Assemble the contents of the text editor, of the Monaco editor, and load it into the memory. I'm slightly nervous of doing this in this. I'm going to do it in the Claude code. I'm feeling a bit no, let's continue in here. I think it'll be okay as long as I give it good enough instructions. I'll load it into the memory of the through use virtual console. I am going to do this a slightly different way. Okay, so I'm going to do this is actually a bigger job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Claude Code to do a terminal. I'm going to give it a bit of a better spec. So update the user, update the React component in, let's get the path of it. Copy path reference, copy from repository root in to include a toolbar above the editor, style like that in the debug view, in the memory view rather. Reference, copy it from repository root. This toolbar should take the content of the Monaco editor, side editor component, and use the assembler in copy from repository root and use the assemble function to assemble the code. It should then, on success, it should then load the code into the memory of the virtual CPU, which you can access through use virtual console. After doing this, the hex, the memory view, should update to show the latest memory. We need the memory view to be synced to updates in the memory bus. Let's not do that yet because if, yes, okay, let's think about this. We're going to have two modes to this, I think. Really, we don't want memory bus updating like all the time. If the CPU is running, at clock speed and it's processing instructions at 3 megahertz, that's actually quite a lot of updates. We don't want memory view constantly on the go, I don't think. But what we're going to do in this is just have a step through the code, a bit like we did in the console version. So I think for this, we probably don't want it to be synced yet. So let's just let it getting the, let's just leave it at updating the latest memory. So we can see that, and then we'll think about how we sync it up and that kind of life cycle. Because we're going to have a button. We're going to have a button, and maybe we take a slice of it and put it in the store. That might be one way to do it, which would work quite nicely. And that in mind, I actually want to empty this store out. I'm going to put that in there. I think that's fine. But I don't want anything else in there for the moment. Okay, so empty the store so we can do changes to the store. And it's just going to be running about the unused set. That's fine, but it'll be set and get, isn't it, as I recall. We've not wired them up yet. Let's just not from about for a minute. We just want an empty store. So I think what I'm going to do is ask Claude to do the update. And the next thing I want to do actually, I'll close my console. That was a bit silly, wasn't it? I'll keep it small. I'm just updating Git. Okay. Let's click Claude. Go to root. We're creating that in code, I think, or spec. Update React component. Here to kind of monitor inside it. Easier somewhere. Some of the code. On one error. Show a summary error. Message in red in the toolbar. We'll expand on this later to show the actual. Okay, so it's a pretty brief spec, but let's see how it gets on with that. And we've pointed it at the right things. We've probably given it just enough. Let's see. So let's launch Claude, paste that in there. Let's see what it makes of that. I hear my dog rumbling away. There is somebody within 200 metres of our house, I suspect. Where we live is in a village. It's very quiet. She gets spicy when people come near the house, as most dogs do. A terrifying retriever. I've made a commit baseline, so I'm going to just let it make the change that it needs to make. Let it do its thing. Oh, there she goes, up, tail up. It's probably the postman. Like all dogs, she loves a postman. Okay, so it's made a bunch of changes. Let's see what we've got. In editor container should be most of the changes we would hope. Shut that down. Okay, not anything of the error, that's fine. Not sure that's I'm not sure that's quite what I meant by that, because it's going to I don't know, result.errors. It is looking at result.errors. Okay, it's also an exception. It's going to load that into memory. But I don't think it's going to update the thing on the left. I don't think it's going to update the memory view. I think it's missed that, but that's okay. That's not a bad start. Let's see what we've got to with this. It should be running. It's still running. Okay. If I just press assemble now, it should fail. Okay. Okay, that's a comment, so that works. Okay, so if you remember, semicolons are comments. I'm going to just go into our example program from the console and pull out our memory fill. Let's pull out our memory fill. Okay, put that in here. So this tells it to load it at address 20. So, but I don't think it's going to update yet. I don't think it's going to update yet. But let's see what happens. It assembles okay. Now I bet if I put like a broken thing in here, it won't assemble okay. Okay, so we know it's assembling. That's good. It's reporting errors, but we're not updating the memory view. So let's see what we're doing with memory when it's assembled. Edit a container. Okay, virtual console. So it's writing it. Okay, it is writing it to the start address, but we're not, as I suspected, we're not seeing it appear in memory view. That's because the memory view is not wired up to anything that's reactive. The virtual console itself isn't reactive, and I don't think we want to make the virtual console reactive. I think that would that feels the wrong path to me. I think the memory view is a user interface artifact, and I think the memory it's looking at is in many ways a user interface artifact. So I think what I'm actually going to do, and this is why I emptied the store out later, because I was kind of earlier rather, because I was thinking about this, was I think I'm going to create a memory that we're looking at as a snapshot in the store, and then we can just update the snapshot when we update the memory, and it should just work. I think as a first cut, that's probably the way to go. I guess we could kind of decorate the console, I guess. That would be the other way we could go. Wrap the console in something that can that kind of notifies, but Zustan's kind of our UI state manager, so let's go with a kind of traditional approach around it. We'll use the store to kind of reflect the current snapshot we're looking at. Okay, so we're going to ask it to do something else now. We'll use the same context because the information it's already worked on is useful to it. Okay, so we're going to add another spec in, another little spec, which is can you... Oh, I don't know, can you? I'm always like, could you please? Like I'm talking to a developer. Could you please do this? Can we discuss that? In this case, I just want to tell it to do something. Let's get the path from repository root. Update the Zustan store so that it has a snapshot of the current memory view we are looking at. Have the assembly process in update the snapshot. We can care update the snapshot. There. First, update the Zustan store so that the what we're actually going to do is move the we're going to move the files view size, set view size, and first row address, set first row address into the store. Finally, update from this snapshot rather than directly from the virtual console. Component. So we're basically moving things around. So there's a snapshot of memory inside ZooStand, which we update, and then we have our UI look at that. And what we'll do is, when we do things like breakpoints and step through and stuff, and pausing the program, is we'll capture the state from the CPU and just pop it into ZooStand, rather than trying to get another kind of shared tracking pub/sub thing going. And we could probably use something clever in ZooStand with pub/sub maybe, but the UI, I think this is a fine enough approach for what we're doing here. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's transparent. And we're not trying to build like a live 6502. Like Visual 6502 is a great thing to go and watch, but that's not what we're doing here. And I think the snapshot is fine. So let's give this to Claude. And of course, we can change our approach later. I think I said in an earlier video, to me, the great thing about code is it is essentially infinitely malleable. We can change it, we can hop around, we can take all sorts of routes through this. We don't have to be beholden to what we decide right now. Things change. But I hope you could see in this episode, it's gone on a little bit. I realise we're probably about an hour and a half, but we're working with the AI in a completely different way. Rather than say generate these big things for us, which we've specified with quite a lot of care, we're being much more organic with it. We're iterating our way through it. Much as we might if we were, writing the application by hand, or with somebody helping us. We've moved to a kind of director role, where rather than a type of coding ourselves role. But sometimes we type in code ourselves, whatever feels like it's going to be the most effective way to accomplish the task. And I think this is a reasonable example of how we would, how I work with this stuff in the day. Sometimes it's spec heavy, sometimes it's quite fluid and dynamic, and there's a real mix of things going on, and I'm essentially leaning on the LM to do a lot of typing for me, because typing's really boring. Okay, so we've got some compile headers here. It looks like it's not actually updated with the store. It has updated the store, so what's going on? Use Devkit store, actions, initial state. We need to expose it through a context, that's why. Oh no, it's fine. But I think we do need to expose it through a context, don't we? That's not going to work as is. Let's ask Claude. Yeah, I think we need to expose this through a context object. Let me just check my code in a previous project, which is my TS-Trek project. I do a new window. I'm going to do this off to the side. It's only my second time of using ZooStand, as I say, so you have to bear with me a second. Use game store. Oh no, you don't. I didn't. It doesn't look like I did use a context there. Just use game store. Find usages. So I guess ZooStand does all that for us. That's what it's done. But I thought I would have put it into app.tsx or main.tsx. No, ZooStand just takes care of that for us by the looks of it. Okay, ignore me. Good old ZooStand. It's really helpful. It looks like we're in a pretty good place. So let's see what this thing looks like now. Go back to Edge. Let's just refresh the page. Let's grab the assembly from program.ts again. Let's ask it to assemble it. Okay, you can see it's loaded it in. Look there. Let's get the colour changed on the memory view. That's not helpful, is it? What colour is it used? Text grey 500. Where's the row.hex? It's that, isn't it? Row.hex. It doesn't have a colour on it. same again. So actually what we'll do, we want with 600 really for the disabled things. So let's actually make that 500 by default. We can take these off. Might be nice actually if this thing is a bit brighter. Yeah, cool, great. So we can see here, look, there's our hex. Okay, so we've got an assemble running. Okay, just pause for a minute to figure out if we should continue in this episode or do a next episode. We're at an hour and a half duration. What do we think? Keep going, make it step through it. Yeah, okay, let's do a bit more. So I don't think we're far off really. So let's continue, and if necessary I'll break this up in the edit. If not, it's a 2-hour episode. Well done for sticking with. Okay, so let me just commit that. Okay, code assembles. Code assembles and engage brain James snapshots. So we're going to add a couple of things now. Okay, I'm going to ask it to do something else now. So so we just quick look at the store. The store looked okay to me. Let me quick look at it. Memory snapshot. Okay, I'm asking now, can we also update the store so it contains a CPU snapshot? The registers, program counter, and stack pointer and flags. I wonder if we can give it such. It's got some context, so let's see if it will be okay with fairly vague. See if I have to point it at the actual CPU class. Possibly not, because it's already got some context. Yeah, it's found. It knows what the CPU is. And it's a bit, with this stuff, you start to get a feel as to when you need to be really precise and when you don't, and yeah, it's reminds me a little bit of Google. When Google first came on the scene, you kind of had to get a feel as to how to phrase search queries and things. It's somewhat similar in a way. Let me just look at cpu.ts, because we didn't need that in the example code, so maybe I've been a bit too lazy with it. Quite possible. It has those methods. Get registers rather than get register by the looks of it. Okay, that's fine. That is fine. Source. What am I thinking about? Not devkit, cpu.ts. Yeah, get registers. Okay, so it's added some stuff to get things out en masse, which is fine. That's absolutely fine. so it's done that. Let's just diff this file, git show diff, because I don't, when it makes changes to the CPU, you know, we want to make sure we understand what it's doing. That's quite a key class for us. So I'm not, again, I mentioned before about like sort of levels of attention I put to things. If it's something like the Devkit, I do care about quite a bit, but I can validate visually to a degree and by navigating the code quite quickly. The CPU, if it does something I don't expect of the CPU, it might change the test at the same time. We've all done that, make a change the test, it's the wrong thing, but we've tested the wrong thing. So the test you can't rely on alone. I want to make sure this is doing things that I am comfortable with. So I use method get cycles. Okay, that's fine. So it's added these things here. So how was our example thing, our register display getting the stack pointer? Did we get the stack pointer? Interestingly, we did get the stack pointer. It had a get stack pointer. Go to implementation. We already had a get stack pointer and a get program counter. So we're not happy with that. We don't want it to use that because we've got existing get stack pointer and get program counter. And get status. So actually what I say is we had existing methods for all that. It's made them properties, I guess, but I don't want it to do that. If we want to make them properties, we want to make them properties across the code base, not just for this. So stop. Let's do it in code. I prefer to put things in code. It's just less error prone. Yeah, so I quite like that in being properties, but I don't want to just do it while I'm doing this. If I do it, we'll do a refactor. Yeah, we'll do an intentional refactor. We don't want to just casually change the CPU class. So yeah, levels of attention in some sense, like there are parts of the code that I am more sensitive to change over, as I am in real life. When somebody gives me a huge pull request, I will focus on the parts from an attention point of view. I might read it all, but my attention will really be pointed at parts that I'm particularly concerned about, that carry risk, that all those things. And it's no different. Cool, let's put the CPU back. Look, it's no different with VLLM. Think of it as a developer you're working with. You haven't got infinite amounts of time and attention, so you make value calls, you make risk calls, and you spread, you then apply your time and attention within those parameters. It's just the same. It's just the same with VLLM. So we should have a value register display now. It's just out of the store. We didn't ask it to put the thing in. I'm looking at our ink code. Everything's React. It's like where's our register display come from? Everything's React. Okay, so actually what I'm asking it to do now is in the debug view, in this folder, get a new component called register view and place it underneath the memory view. Should be set up to grow to fill available space in the debug view. Available vertical space. And the register view should size to fit itself. Perhaps use a CSS grid through Tailwind. The register view should show the status of the snapshot just added to the stand store. Okay, it's thinking away, it's thinking away. Who knows, if this series takes off, maybe maybe we'll stream it. While Claude's doing its thing, we could definitely chat about things that are interesting to people, answer questions. So we'll see. Very early days for me in this kind of thing. I'm slightly more comfortable with it than I thought I would be. I guess I'm quite a private person, but I quite enjoy talking to people about fun projects. So we'll see how we go. Okay, so we've got a register view. What that look like? Okay, I'm not going to inspect this too much because it's just a bit of UI. It looks vaguely sensible. We'll look at the UI. Let's look at the debug view and how it's laid things out. Yeah, that's what I would have put in there. So that's good. That's why I kind of nudged it in that direction. And hopefully this looks sensible. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. It does not look sensible. That's not worked at all. Okay. H full, width full. Okay, let's ask it to it looks like and we might need a max H100, max H full on here perhaps, or an overflow Y none. No, I'm going to ask it how to fix it. Let's just try one last thing. Okay, so I don't know why that's not showing, so I'm going to ask Claude to fix it. CSS. Not always my favourite thing. Okay, what's the memory view look like? Can't quite remember. Okay, something in the CSS sizing that is not immediately obvious to me, so ideal candidate for the LM rather than flotsing around for a long time. Okay. thinks it's found the answer. Okay, I'm sure it's something like this before. Yeah, okay, there we go. We've got a memory view and we've got a register view. Great, and they, I presume, are going to light up based on if they're set or not. I'm not going to look, I'm going to see. Of course, that's not an assemble. Let's take the program.cs again, because this is getting a little bit tedious copying it over all the time. So let's grab the program.cs program. Okay, let's take that. Let's go to our editor view. We'll wire this up to the store eventually as well. Const default program equals that's not worked. Why has that not worked? Editor container, set editor content. Oh, because I'm in the wrong place, that's why. Okay. Why is that in there? Why is that in our container? Hand assemble. Monaco. It's not wired up down there, look. Okay. That's okay. Let's set that to default program 2. Okay, yeah, fine, understood. Okay, great, we've got our program. Let's call assemble. It assembles because it's not giving us errors, it's loaded into there. Okay, we're not worried about it. We're going to put a reset button on at some point. And I will be right back. 1 second. Okay, back. Yes, so we're assembling code, loading in, we can see the registers, all looks good. We want the program counter to be highlighted in the, well, first we want to set the program counter when we load the assembly in, and we want to also show it in a highlighted colour in the memory view. So again, we'll use Claude for this. I think I might want to do a commit. Okay, so we're going to go back into Claude. Can we highlight the memory location? And we also load the assembled code into the CPU. Can we set the program counter to the start of the first memory segment of the assembled code? So we want to show it red, and hopefully with all the information given so far, it's got enough context to find this. And that's again the thing with the context window. You essentially, as stuff gets loaded into Claude, it finds more about what it's doing. It will truncate that at times, so it will lose some of that. But you're generally building up knowledge in the space you're working in. So if you're working on a group set of work, sort of a grouped piece of work, it's useful to keep the context going. But if you switch to something quite different, that same context can mislead the AI as to what to do. It doesn't actually know what it's doing. You know, it's AI. It's not actually intelligent. Everybody knows that, I'm sure, who's watching this. So you have to kind of shape the data that it's pulling on. Yeah, and we saw that in the episode 2, I think, where it went a bit wrong because I hadn't sort of reset the context. So yeah, you have to sort of actively think about what might be in the context. Keep that in your head as you work with Claude, and it will help you get the right results. Sometimes you'll get it wrong, as I did yesterday, and I think as I did earlier today. You know, Okay, cool. We'll have a quick drink. Let's go back to the this. Okay, so let's just reset it. Okay, pointing at 0, PC 0. When we assemble it, set it to 20, highlighted it. Great. Okay, we now have to put a step function on it so we can watch the CPU do its work, like we did in the console app. Let's go back to Claude. Let's do this in VS Code. Oops, wrong button. Who needs emoticons in your AI? Not me. Let's go back to Claude. Okay, we're not registering that. We can just delete this stuff. Okay, and we're going to say under the register view component, add a new component, create it at no, copy path reference, copy path repository root, create it at slash, what should we call this? This is going to be like a debug toolbar. Debug toolbar. That lets us step through the program in memory. So it should call, let's have a look, what do we call it? CPU.ts, I think it's called next, isn't it? CPU.ts console. I'm pretty sure it's called next. No, I can't remember what it's called. Reset, not get cycles, not. Oh goodness, what step? It's called step. Of course, it's called step. It's called step to move on an instruction. After doing so, we should regenerate snapshots. Okay, I think that's probably enough for it. Let's see. I'm just going to create another commit point. Remove the improvements. Let's just push that, why not? You can generally follow on live. We'll push that up. Okay. Let's go to Claude. And again, it's got a fair amount of context at this point, so I think a fairly straightforward spec is probably okay. I mean, interesting if you're working on kind of agentic AI systems, if you're implementing them, working on tools for them and building agentic AI systems, you spend a lot of time thinking about the context window and how to get, people obsess a bit about the prompts, but what really matters is getting the right information at the right amount at the right time to the LLM. That makes all the difference. And you can, when you're working with a tool like this, you can help it along the way by kind of resetting its context and things like that. And I suspect over the next 2-3 years, we'll get ever better at managing what's in the context, but also I suspect we'll get tools to help us shape the context. And that will improve things yet further, I hope, for developers. So we should have a debug toolbar. Okay. Fine, yeah, okay, that's okay, we don't like that too much. Handle step, create a snapshot, it's just reading it out. We can probably create a little helper function for that. Okay, CPU snapshot, so our debug toolbar, there's a button, green. No, that's an interesting choice. I'm not sure I'd have gone with green, but let's have a look at it. Okay, oh, it looks okay. Maybe I should just shut up and let it do its thing. Let's refresh it, let's assemble it. Let's call step and see what happens. It's working. You can see it's set a flag, set a 0 flag. Okay, we should. This is the memory fill, isn't it? Yeah, so we should start to see this thing fill up in a second. Yeah, there we go. So we've essentially in this episode got our CPU running in a React application. We can use our assembler to take a program from over here, assemble it, and put it into the CPU's memory, and we can start to move through the memory. So the next episode I hope will be a bit shorter. But actually, let's just pause for a moment. I think in perhaps 4 hours in total, we've gone from nothing, just some specs, to an emulated CPU and some tools and demos that can use it and can use it in a browser. I mean, I think that's pretty good going. I think I'm not sure. I would not get there without the help of the AI. It's probably, if you look at the amount of code we've managed to get through. I guess there's a week or two's work in that, and we've got there in 4 hours. I think that's pretty impressive, and it's why I think developers need to embrace this stuff, because whether you think it's good or bad from an ethical point of view, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and if you don't embrace it, if you're taking a week to something that we've just done in 4 hours, you're not going to be competitive in the job market. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to kind of create this series was, show people how useful these things can be, how you can work with them, and help people make this transition. I've seen several transitions in my career, and there's work required to get to the other side of them. And hopefully, I have some helpful insights and helpful sort of practical examples that can help people make the transition. And not get caught out by it. So that's what we're doing here, as well as having fun with a retro console. So that's part 3, I think, and part 4 should be also super exciting. We need to do a few things. We need to make the CPU run, to an actual clock, a CPU clock. We're going to run it at 3 megahertz. The CPU, the 6502, ran at 2 megahertz in BBC. I think the design of the CPU, sort of 2 to 4 megahertz, is okay. We'll run it in the middle at 3 and see what we get to. And we're going to start wiring up to video RAM. Now, what I'll probably do in the next episode is get the CPU running kind of on the timer. We will get this thing working with a VS Code language extension, so we get nice formatting in here, the syntax. And the episode after, we will do rendering. We'll get graphics going, and then this thing on the left will also start to show us the output, the actual running console. So we're to see the console running, see the screen of the console as if we'd wired it up to a TV, and that should be super exciting. Thanks for, if you're still here on episode 3, thanks for sticking with me. If you're still here at the end of this 2-hour episode, thank you for sticking with me. I hope the sort of results at the end are pretty cool. I think they're pretty cool. Maybe I'm easily impressed, but I hope you think they're pretty cool, and we can, we'll take it forward from here. Thanks again.